So, ready to dive into a side of Black history we don't always hear about.
Yeah, definitely.
We've got this fascinating article, The Untold Story of Black Resistance in America.
Okay.
And it really makes you think about resistance in a whole new way,
No
like
doubt.
how people fought back against incredible odds.
Yeah, it's amazing. This isn't just about like famous uprisings and stuff.
Yeah.
It's more like I don't know, a hidden history,
Mm-hmm.
woven into like the fabric of America, showing that the fight for freedom,
Yeah.
it was there,
Yeah.
even in the darkest times.
Yeah. Okay, so let's rewind all the way back.
Okay.
Back to the transatlantic slave trade. I mean, it's easy to just focus on the horrors of it.
Yeah.
But this article, it takes a different angle.
Mhm.
It asks, how could anyone even think about resisting, like in those
Yeah.
circumstances?
Well, and the answer is they did in really clever and often surprising ways.
Right.
I mean, think about it, you're stripped of your identity, your family,
Mm.
your very humanity. But even then, the will to resist never died.
Wow.
You see it in these subtle acts of rebellion. The preservation of their cultural traditions, even though they were outlawed, and even in, like meticulously planned revolts.
Like the Stono Rebellion.
Exactly.
1739. The article mentions that as a key example.
Yeah. So you have this group of enslaved Africans in South Carolina,
Okay.
led by a man named Jemmy, and they managed to arm themselves and rise up against their oppressors, and they fought for their freedom,
Yeah.
like every inch of the way.
It's incredible.
And it just completely shatters this myth of passive acceptance.
Mm.
It shows that desire for liberation.
Mm.
It was always there,
Mm-hmm.
burning beneath the surface.
Yeah, it's almost like a detective story, isn't it?
Kind of, yeah.
Trying to uncover the traces of resistance in a system that was designed to erase it.
Exactly, yeah.
Speaking of traces, the article mentions these maroon communities,
Right.
these settlements of escaped slaves. What was so unique about them?
Well, you got to think of them as more than just hideouts.
Okay.
These communities were pockets of like self-determination,
Mm.
where escaped slaves created their own societies, their own laws,
Mm.
their own ways of life.
Yeah.
It wasn't just survival. It was about reclaiming your humanity, forging a path toward true freedom.
Right.
And get this, some of these communities, they even negotiated treaties with colonial powers.
Really?
Yeah. It's pretty mind-blowing when you consider the context,
Yeah. Wow, I never knew that.
It's amazing.
See, this is why I love these deep dives.
Yeah.
Always something new to uncover. And it seems like religion played a huge role in resistance, too.
Mm-hmm.
The article specifically mentions spirituals.
Right. Spirituals, I mean, they were more than just songs of like solace. They were ingenious tools of communication.
Huh?
Like imagine using music to send coded messages of hope, or to plan escapes,
Right.
even signal danger right under the noses of slaveholders.
Wow.
I mean, it's incredible. It's a testament to the creativity and the resilience of the human spirit.
Okay, so we're seeing these seeds of resistance planted early on.
Mm-hmm.
But the article also, it dives into how Black culture itself became a powerful form of expression
Yes.
and ultimately resistance.
Absolutely. And it's not just spirituals. As Black communities gained more agency,
Mhm.
especially after emancipation, we see the rise of musical genres like jazz, blues,
Right.
and eventually hip-hop.
Mm-hmm.
These weren't just entertainment.
Yeah.
They were chronicles of Black life, conveying the joys, the sorrows, the struggles
Yeah.
of people constantly striving for equality.
The article focuses specifically on jazz, calling it a cornerstone of Black expression. Mm-hmm.
What made it so unique as a form of resistance?
Well, think about the context. You're talking about a genre born out of segregation and Jim Crow.
Mm-hmm.
Jazz wasn't just about virtuosity.
Right.
It was about improvisation, about finding beauty and meaning in the midst of, chaos and oppression. Artists like Louis Armstrong and Billie Holiday,
Right.
they weren't just musicians, they were cultural ambassadors, sharing the Black experience with the world through their music.
It's like their music forced people to listen,
Yes.
to confront the realities of Black life in America.
Exactly. And it wasn't always about, overt protest. Sometimes it was about subtle subversion,
Right.
about reclaiming joy and celebrating Black identity in a world that constantly tried to diminish it.
This reminds me of the Harlem Renaissance, another period of incredible cultural flourishing that the article highlights. Right. The Harlem Renaissance. It was like an explosion of Black creativity, literature, art, music, theater, you name it.
Right.
It was about challenging stereotypes, reclaiming narratives, asserting Black identity on a national stage.
Yeah.
And it paved the way for future generations of artists and activists.
Yeah.
By demonstrating the power of cultural expression as a tool for social change.
It's amazing to think about figures like Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston writing and creating art that challenged the status quo and gave a voice to a community that had been silenced for far too long.
Exactly. And they weren't alone. The Harlem Renaissance was a collective effort. Symphony of voices coming together to create something truly remarkable.
Yeah.
We see painters like Aaron Douglas, capturing the spirit of Black life in his murals,
Right.
and musicians like Duke Ellington blending jazz and blues to create a distinctly American sound. It was a movement defined by its diversity, its defiance, and its unwavering belief in the power of art to challenge and inspire.
So we've got this incredibly rich tapestry of resistance woven throughout Black history, from subtle acts of defiance to full-blown cultural movements.
Right.
And that brings us to the individuals who became symbols of this struggle.
Yeah.
The leaders who helped shape the fight for freedom. The article mentions Harriet Tubman as a prime example.
Harriet Tubman, the Moses of her people.
Right.
She's a figure who embodies both courage and strategic brilliance.
Yeah.
Think about it. She escaped slavery herself and then risked her life repeatedly to guide others to freedom through the Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about personal liberation.
Right.
It was about creating a network of resistance, a lifeline for those yearning to break free.
It's hard to fathom the level of bravery that took, especially in a time when being caught meant certain death.
And what's often overlooked is her strategic genius. She wasn't just leading people to safety.
Right.
She was building a movement, recruiting others to the cause.
Wow.
And even using her knowledge of herbal medicine to care for those she rescued. She was a true revolutionary leader.
And then you have Frederick Douglass, another towering figure in the fight for abolition. The article highlights his incredible journey from slavery to becoming one of the most powerful voices for equality in America.
Douglass was a master of language, using his words to expose the horrors of slavery,
right,
and to advocate for the full humanity of Black people.
Yeah.
His autobiography.
Right.
It's a must read. Not just for its historical significance, but for its sheer literary brilliance. Yeah. He was a writer, an orator, and a tireless advocate for social change.
And what's striking is how he never stopped learning.
Right.
Never stopped evolving. He went from escaping slavery to becoming a prominent abolitionist, a newspaper publisher,
right,
even an advisor to President Lincoln during the Civil War. He never let his circumstances define him. Always pushing boundaries and challenging expectations.
Exactly. And his legacy continues to inspire, activists and writers today.
Yeah.
His understanding of the power of education, self-reliance, and relentless advocacy, it's timeless.
Okay, so we've got these remarkable individuals leading the charge.
Right.
But the article is quick to point out that Black resistance was never just about individual heroes. It was about movements, about collective action, about communities coming together to demand change.
And that's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive. We'll explore how these individual stories, they connect to the larger tapestry of Black resistance,
Okay.
how movements took shape, and how they ultimately transformed the landscape of America.
Stay tuned, because we're about to unpack some of the most significant moments in the fight for freedom and equality in American history. Okay, so we've explored some of the incredible ways Black individuals resisted oppression, like right from the start.
Right.
But let's get into the organized movements now. You know, the moments when those individual acts of defiance, they kind of coalesced into these forces for real change, you know?
Yeah, that's where things get really remarkable.
Yeah.
It's not just about, like sporadic acts of resistance. It's about sustained efforts. It's about communities banding together.
Right.
It's about strategy, organization.
Yeah.
And when you look closely at these movements, you start to see patterns. You start to understand the ingredients that make a movement, powerful and effective.
Yeah, looking back at these historical turning points, like the Underground Railroad or the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah.
What common threads do you see in terms of what made these efforts successful?
Well, one of the biggest takeaways is the absolute necessity of collective action.
Okay.
Individual acts of defiance, they're important, but when people come together, with a shared purpose, when they organize, they strategize, they leverage their collective power,
Right.
that's when real change happens.
Yeah.
It's about creating a force that's bigger than any one person.
It's almost like a ripple effect, right?
Exactly.
One person's act of courage, it inspires another and another, and pretty soon you've got a whole wave of resistance crashing against the system.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Think about the Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about Harriet Tubman's incredible leadership.
Right.
It was about a vast network of people, both Black and white,
Right.
who risked everything to help others escape to freedom.
Wow.
It was about everyday people becoming, conductors, station masters, protectors,
Right.
forming this chain of solidarity that stretched across states and even into Canada.
And it's not just about numbers either. It's
Okay.
about coordination.
Right.
The article mentions how the Underground Railroad had its own its own secret codes
Right.
and communication systems, almost like a military operation.
Absolutely. It was incredibly sophisticated.
Yeah.
With escape routes mapped out, safe houses established, signals used to communicate information without, alerting slaveholders.
Right.
They even used songs.
Right.
Like the famous Follow the Drinking Gourd to convey directions and information to those seeking freedom.
It's amazing how resourceful and resilient they had to be.
Yeah.
I'm always staying one step ahead of those trying to keep them enslaved. And that spirit of collective action, it seems to carry through to later movements too.
Without a doubt. Think about the NAACP.
Okay.
Which emerged in the early 20th century.
Right.
They understood that to combat this, deeply entrenched system of Jim Crow, they needed a multi-pronged approach.
Okay.
That combined legal challenges with grassroots activism and public education campaigns.
So it's not just about, marching in the streets
Right.
or protesting injustice. It's about understanding the system
Right.
and using all the tools available to dismantle it.
Exactly. The NAACP's legal victories, like the landmark Brown v. Board of Education decision,
Right.
which desegregated schools. Those were the result of years of meticulous planning, legal strategizing, fundraising. They built coalitions, they gathered evidence, and they presented their case in a way that exposed the inherent injustice of segregation.
So we've got collective action as a key ingredient for success, but the article also highlights the importance of persistence, the ability to keep fighting even when the odds seem insurmountable.
Because let's be honest, the fight for justice, it's rarely a straight line to victory.
Right.
there are setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
There are moments of despair.
Right.
There are times when it feels like, nothing is changing.
Yeah.
But what separates the movements that succeed from those that fade away
Mm-hmm.
is the unwavering commitment to keep pushing forward, even when it's hard.
The article gives the example of the fight for voting rights. Mm-hmm.
That wasn't something that happened overnight.
Whoa, it
It
didn't.
took decades of struggle,
Okay.
of people putting their lives on the line,
Mm-hmm.
of facing violence and intimidation just for the right to cast a ballot.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the courage it took for people to register to vote,
Right.
knowing that, they could be harassed, beaten, or even killed.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the countless marches, the sit-ins, the freedom rides,
Yeah.
all aimed at dismantling the barriers that kept, Black people from exercising their fundamental right to vote.
Right.
It's a testament to the sheer willpower and determination of those who refuse to be silenced.
And it wasn't just about, changing laws.
Yeah.
It was about changing hearts and minds,
Yes.
right? Shifting the culture and dismantling that deeply ingrained racism that fueled voter suppression.
Absolutely.
It was about challenging the narrative,
Right.
about exposing the hypocrisy of a system that claimed to be democratic,
Right.
while denying basic rights to a significant portion of its population.
So we've got collective action.
Mm-hmm.
We've got persistence.
Right.
What else stands out to you as a crucial lesson from these movements?
Strategic communication.
Okay.
You can have the most righteous cause in the world,
Mm-hmm.
but if you can't effectively communicate your message,
Right.
if you can't reach the right audience and persuade them to join your fight,
Yeah.
you're not going to achieve your goals.
It's like a chess game almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having to anticipate your opponent's moves,
Right.
understanding the power dynamics at play,
Yeah.
figuring out how to leverage your resources to achieve maximum impact.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the history of Black resistance, you see brilliant examples of strategic communication at every turn.
Yeah.
Take Frederick Douglass, for instance.
Okay.
He understood the power of language, of storytelling,
Right.
of using his own experiences to shed light on the brutality of slavery and to appeal to the conscience of the nation.
Yeah.
His speeches and writings, they were meticulously crafted to persuade, to inspire, to provoke action.
It's amazing how he managed to reach audiences that were initially hostile to his message.
Right.
He was invited to speak at events where he was expected to be subservient,
Mm-hmm.
and he would turn those platforms into opportunities to speak truth to power.
He was a master of rhetoric,
Mm-hmm.
but he also understood the importance of tailoring his message to different audiences.
Right.
He knew when to appeal to people's sense of morality,
Mm-hmm.
when to use logic and reason,
Right.
and when to stir their emotions.
Wow.
It was a delicate balancing act.
Yeah.
But he pulled it off with incredible skill.
And that strategic thinking, it wasn't limited to individual leaders either.
No.
Organizations like the NAACP,
Right.
they also understood the importance of messaging and PR.
Mm-hmm.
They used legal strategies to expose the contradictions in the system.
Right.
But they also made sure to publicize their victories,
Yeah.
to celebrate the achievements of the movement, and to keep the issue of racial justice in the public eye.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
They understood that public perception matters.
Right.
That winning in the court of law
Mm-hmm.
was only half the battle.
Right.
They had to win in the court of public opinion as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that meant crafting a narrative that resonated with a wider audience, that challenged the status quo, and presented a compelling vision for a more just and equitable society.
And this emphasis on strategic communication, it seems even more relevant today in the age of social media.
Right.
And 247 news cycles
Absolutely.
that the way we consume information, the way we form opinions, the way we connect with each other, it's fundamentally changed.
It is.
And movements for social change have had to adapt to find new ways to cut through the noise and reach people where they are.
This brings to mind the Black Panther Party.
Okay.
They weren't afraid to be controversial, to challenge the mainstream media narrative, and to use bold tactics to draw attention to issues of police brutality, poverty, and systemic racism.
The Black Panthers, they understood the power of imagery, of symbolism. You know, their iconic black berets, their raised fists, their defiant stance against oppression.
Yeah.
It all created a visual language that resonated with people who were tired of being ignored.
Right.
They also understood the importance of meeting people's basic needs. Launching programs like a free breakfast for children, and community health clinics, all while demanding systemic change.
They combined direct action with community service, showing that you could address, immediate needs, while also fighting for long-term solutions.
And they weren't afraid to use their platform to call out injustice.
No,
even if it meant, challenging those in power.
Right.
They understood that sometimes you have to shake things up to make people uncomfortable, to force them to confront the realities of inequality. So we've got these three key ingredients for successful movements: collective action, persistence, and strategic communication.
Yes.
But the article goes deeper.
Okay.
Suggesting that there's another layer to this. Right. Education and awareness.
Because ultimately, lasting change, it isn't just about changing laws or policies. It's about changing hearts and minds, about dismantling those deeply ingrained systems of oppression that perpetuate inequality.
Right.
And that requires education, awareness, and a willingness to confront, uncomfortable truths about our history and ourselves.
It's about understanding the roots of racism, the ways it's woven into the fabric of our society, and how it manifests in everyday life.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we all have a role to play in dismantling these systems. That it's not just the responsibility of those who are directly impacted by injustice. We all have a responsibility to learn, to educate ourselves, and to challenge the status quo.
So it's not just about reading books or attending lectures. It's about being willing to have, uncomfortable conversations, to listen to the lived experiences of others, and to examine our own biases and assumptions.
It's about recognizing that the fight for justice is an ongoing process, a journey that requires constant learning, unlearning and relearning. And it's a journey that we must undertake together, because the liberation of one is bound up in the liberation of all.
And that's a powerful message to carry with us as we move into the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore how this legacy of resistance continues to shape contemporary movements for social change.
Wow, we've covered a lot in this deep dive.
Yeah, we have. From those first sparks of resistance during slavery to the rise of those powerful movements that reshaped America. But now let's talk about what all this means for us today. How does this history of Black resistance connect to the fight for justice that's happening right now?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because this isn't just about looking back. It's about understanding the present and shaping the future. And what strikes me is how the echoes of those past struggles they reverberate in the movements we see unfolding today.
The article really emphasizes that point, drawing a direct line from historical figures like Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass to modern day activists.
It's not just a symbolic connection.
Right.
It's about principles, strategies, and a deep understanding of how to challenge oppressive systems.
Yeah.
Take Take the Black Lives Matter movement, for example.
Yeah.
It's often portrayed as this new phenomenon. But if you look closely, you see the fingerprints of those who came before.
What do you mean by fingerprints? How are today's activists building on the foundation laid by those earlier movements?
Well, think about the core principles we've been discussing: collective action, persistence, strategic communication.
Yeah.
These are the hallmarks of Black resistance throughout history.
Right.
And they're at the very heart of Black Lives Matter.
So it's not just about marching in the streets or using hashtags.
Well, no.
It's about a deeper understanding of how to mobilize people,
Mm.
how to sustain momentum,
Right.
and how to leverage the tools that are available to create change.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is how Black Lives Matter has taken these principles and adapted them for the digital age. They're using social media to amplify their message,
Right.
to organize protests,
Yeah.
to hold those in power accountable, and to create this global network of solidarity.
It's almost like they've taken the playbook of past movements and added a whole new chapter on digital activism.
And it's been incredibly effective.
Yeah.
They've managed to shift the national conversation on race and policing,
Wow.
to expose systemic injustices,
Right.
and to inspire a whole new generation of activists.
But it's not without its challenges, right?
No, of course not.
What kind of challenges do you see?
One challenge is navigating the complexities of online spaces where information spreads, rapidly.
Right.
But it can also be, easily distorted or manipulated. Another challenge is dealing with pushback from those who feel threatened by the movement's message.
Right.
And then there's the ongoing struggle to translate online activism into real world policy changes.
So it's not as simple as just, going viral
Yes.
or trending on Twitter. It's about building a movement that can sustain itself, that can weather the storms, and that can ultimately achieve, tangible results.
Exactly. And that's where the lessons of history become so crucial. Because those who came before us,
Right.
they faced similar challenges.
Yeah.
They had to deal with misinformation, with backlash, with the slow grind of progress.
Right.
And they developed strategies for overcoming those obstacles.
The article talks about how activists during the civil rights movement they used music, art, and literature to spread their message and to inspire hope in the face of adversity. It seems like Black Lives Matter is drawing on that tradition as well.
Absolutely. You see it in the powerful imagery associated with the movement,
Right.
in the art and poetry that has emerged from the protests, and in the way they've used music to create a soundtrack for the struggle.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that art and culture, they're not just reflections of social movements. They're integral parts of the movements themselves.
So it's not just about, changing laws or policies. It's
Right.
it's about changing the culture, about shifting the narrative,
Yeah.
about creating a world where justice and equality, they're not just, ideals,
Right.
but lived realities.
And that's a long-term project.
Yeah.
A multi-generational struggle. But what gives me hope is seeing how young people are stepping up.
Right.
How they're carrying the torch of resistance and finding new ways to illuminate the path towards a more just and equitable future.
It's like they're standing on the shoulders of giants, drawing inspiration from those who came before them,
Right.
while also, forging their own path.
And they're not afraid to challenge the status quo, to demand more from their leaders, and to hold institutions accountable.
Yeah.
They're not content with incremental change.
Right.
They're pushing for transformative change.
So as we wrap up this incredible deep dive into the history of Black resistance, what's the key takeaway you want to leave our listener with?
I think the most important takeaway is that this history It's not just a collection of stories or events. It's a living legacy, a source of inspiration, a guide for action.
Yeah.
By understanding the struggles and the triumphs of those who came before us, we can gain valuable insights into how to effectively challenge injustice,
Right, yeah.
and create a more equitable world. It's about recognizing that the fight for freedom and equality,
Right.
it's an ongoing journey.
Yeah.
One
Right.
that requires constant vigilance, unwavering commitment, and a belief in the power of collective action.
Yeah, and as long as there's oppression, there will be resistance.
Exactly.
And that's where we'll leave it for today.
Okay.
We hope this deep dive has inspired you to delve deeper into this rich and complex history, and to consider how you can contribute to the ongoing struggle for justice and equality. Keep learning. Keep questioning. Keep pushing for a better world.
Yes.
And remember, the legacy of resistance, it's in your hands now.